Ochite guys, welcome people. Welcome back to Flashlight Unity. I am Theora, and I come to you with another video. And like I said in the previous video before this one, I'm going to discuss fear because fear seems to be the most powerful emotion that is holding people back. And once again, fear is false events appearing real, and it's going to be, false events, false thoughts, false, everything is false comparing real, because until you actually do something, how can you already assign a title that it is, that is real? You know what I mean? Until you actually do something that you perceive as being fearful or causing fear within you, how can you decide if this fear is real? Because you have not experienced it yet. This is why, even though you may have a little bit of fear and trepidation about anything, you still have to do it anyway. You have to believe, that, okay, I'm not going to put a category to this until I actually experience it and know, If somebody say, well, how does a roller coaster feel, and you never been on a roller coaster, you can't really go by what somebody else says, because that's their account. There's their perception of how the roller coaster feels. You have to actually get on a roller coaster to see how it feels, because they can say, oh my God, that roller coaster was so scary, and it went around this, that, and the other. It was so scary. I felt like this, I felt like that, this, that, and the other. Well, that's their account of the actual roller coaster. You have to get on that roller coaster, because you may very well get on that roller coaster and say, oh my God, that roller coaster was so thrilling. It excited me. You know what I mean? I screamed, I shouted, I was blowing in the wind. This roller coaster was so enlivening, it was so, brought me so much joy. But you won't know that if you're always taking somebody else's account for what's what. Sometimes all the time, you're going to have to experience for yourself. And with this fear, this is what stops people from actually doing that. They never want to get on a roller coaster. They'll take what somebody else say, and they'll just chalk it up like, oh, I'm not getting on a roller coaster because they said that it is scary, that, it shakes you around, that, you're going to want to get off. You won't know until you experience the roller coaster. So these videos that I'm doing right now is going over fear and how it's absolutely a must that we release the fear. There is no other way around it. We have to release the fear. And I do want to highlight this beautiful, beautiful nature scene around me. Nature is a good way if you want to meditate, if you're feeling heavy or whatever. Nature is a great way, because nature is real. You're never going to find anything in nature and say, oh, that's fake, or they're being fake, or that's false. Everything about nature is real. So if you ever want to get grounded or ease your mind and stuff like that, go in nature and find a way to and just embrace all the things that you see, because everything in nature is real. There's nothing false about it, So that's just a little tip for, trying to get over this fear, because it is an absolute must. It is an absolute must. And I'm going to keep emphasizing that. You might say, oh my God, she's saying the same things. And right, I am. And I'm going to keep saying them, because we have to drop this fear. The fear is that's the control. That is the absolute control. If we can drop the fear, or even have it and still do stuff anyway, because the more we do stuff that causes fear, we're going to lose it. And then we're going to get stronger and stronger and stronger, till after a while, anybody can say anything, and we're going to be like, well, I don't know about that, because I have not experienced it, And so this is what we're trying to get to. But I'm going to read the definition of fear, because sometimes, fear is such a broad category. Sometimes people may not know, but I know there's many levels and there's many things that people are fearful of. But I'm just going to read the definition of it, so you can kind of place it within yourself of what fear actually is, and maybe if you're in it or not. So I do have my notes here, or my tablet here, so I'm going to be looking down. But try to get the message. Don't worry so much about what I'm doing. Try to perceive the message, because this is what I want you to get. I want you to get the message. Don't worry about me. Get the message. You're going to have to drop all them hang-ups, you know, a lot of times, you know, we get in judgment, and when we're in fear, we judge other people who are not, who we don't perceive in fear. And, you know, we'll say, well, oh, that's just them, but this, that, and the other about them, this, that, and the other. You don't know anybody else's story, so you can't really judge that person. You know what I mean? There's no way that you would know anybody else's story. So you have to take everything with a grain of salt as far as like judgment, you know, because I talked about groupthink in the last video. Groupthink is very, very dangerous, because if that group wants you to believe or feel a certain thing, then most definitely they're going to cause you to have a fear or a judgment on information or a person that you're listening to. And I don't want you to totally go by my say. My sway is only to encourage you. It's only to lead you to your own intuition. It's to lead you to your own discernment, which is absolutely necessary at this time. We are in dire times now, where gaining control of our mind is of the utmost. It is like priority one right now. It is right now, 2024. It is November. It is priority one, and it has an urgency behind it for us to gain our own individual thought patterns, the control of our own mind. And so let me read the definition of fear. And it says, an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief. You know, a belief, you know, a belief is broad. Once again, it's subjective to the individual who's believing, you know. So it's an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain or a threat. And so when you think about that, you know, how many things do you fear from a certain thing that you think is dangerous, that may cause pain, or that is a threat? This is something you have to ask yourself. Go down the list. This is the time where you're going to have to be real with yourself. You're going to have to be real with yourself and discern your fear for yourself, you know. And you're going to say, well, you know, and just go by the things that you want to do. Go by the things that you want to say. Go by the emotions that you want to fear. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. Fear is the enemy. It is the enemy. And guess what? The powers that be who are instilling this fear, they use this enemy as a weapon to control you. You know, and so, you know, sometimes we have fear, you know, like, let's say, like a scary movie. A scary movie can cause fear, but what's scared? You know what I mean? Like, what's scary? That's another subjective term. That's based on the individual, right? To be scared, you know. So what are you afraid of? Ask yourself, what are you afraid of? You know, and you can ask yourself on all levels. Like, sometimes you got to write stuff down, because as information, as words and these feelings and stuff swirl within you, you can't accurately get a clear description of what they're doing or what they are. Sometimes you have to write things down on paper so that you can see something outside of yourself. Because let's face it, we're comfortable with ourselves. And this is how people stay in their comfort zone. They stay in their comfort zone, and fear is where they reside. And they have no intentions on getting out. Well, guess what? That's going to be to your detriment. That's going to be to your detriment, because fear only breeds more fear. And for me to get the videos and the messages out to you, I really don't care how long it takes. So if I have to spend multiple videos doing fear, then that's just what I do, because I'm not trying to rush this. I'm trying to get the information out to you. I'm trying to appeal to your sensibilities, to your discernment, to your understanding, to your mental state. The time is of the essence. It is very urgent now that we start to learn how to create. How to create and how to control our own mind, creating the reality that we desire to see, not the one that we think that we're forced to live in, because we are not. You know, there's so many people, and I want to go back to that $9 million so-called account that I talked about on a previous video. You know, if in fact there is 9 billion people, and let's go with just the United States, because that's where I am. I'm in the United States. And I think the last count I had, it was like over 300 million. If in fact it is over 300 million people in the United States, then why in the hell would 300 people, and I'll take a million off. Let's say a million people don't have no issues, whatever. Let's go with the 250 million people. If in fact there is 250 million people in the United States, then why in the hell is all 250 million people angry? You know, feeling isolated, biting their tongue, not living up to their full potential, angry at what's going on, dissatisfied with what's being presented to them in the form of laws and the state of the economy and thus far. Why, if it's 250 million people, then why on earth, how on earth can 250 million people be in this state of dissatisfaction and nothing is being done? And I want you to ask yourself that. And then the next person you see, I want you to ask them that. Next person you see, I want you to ask them that too. Because that's telling us something about the 250 million people, because we don't let the million go. That's telling us something about the 250 million people who are dissatisfied with the world that they see before them. They're sitting down, they're lying down, they're rolling over and let a few control the many. And if you are part of the many, now is the time to start asking yourself the question, why am I laying down and allowing myself to be rolled over, controlled as if I am a child? And then after you ask yourself that question, come up with an answer. If you don't have an answer, then now it's time to put into play expressions of your words, your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions, you know, because there's nowhere in the world that 250 million people should be controlled by a few. And that's just it. It's just no other way we can explain it. There's no other way around it. There's just absolutely no excuse for it. And I'm going to end this video right here because I'm going to do plenty more. But I wanted to leave you with that question. How? Ask yourself, how can 250 million people within the United States be dissatisfied? And let me take 50 million people off. So now let's go with 2 million people. How can 200 million people within the United States be dissatisfied with the state of the economy, the state of the government, the state of issues, the state of how they're living, the state of the economical classes, the state of the money they have to pay out, the state of their lack of inclusion in the decision making and how they live their lives? Just how? How is that possible? And you might not know the answer now, but start asking around and start with yourself. Because if you were part of the 250 million people, 200 million, because I took 50 more off, that is not satisfied with your life, that is disgusted with this so-called inflation that's taking place, that is disgusted with the policies that's going on, what is disgusted that how we're choosing a leader to run this particular country. If you got any of those issues and you disgusted with how they inflict fear-mongering on the people to keep people's vibration and energy low, to keep their mind controlled. If you are any one of those things, disgusted with any one of those things, then ask you, how in the hell is that possible for 200 million people to be disgusted when the power is in the numbers? The power is there, it's plain as day. How can a few control the many? And you know why? I've been talking about it the whole video. These last 3 videos, I've been talking about it, and it's called fear. And it's time for everybody to get up out of their shell and release the fear and start opening up their mouth and speaking what they really want to say. What's the fear? Only a child fears things like that. When we were child, we did childish things. Yeah, we had to listen to the authority figures in our life. But how on earth can we now be grown and we still feel like we're children? We still feel like we have authority figures in our life. They get to tell us what to do, what to say, where to be, how to feel, what to look at, don't look at this. You know, how is that possible? Do you feel like a child? Ask yourself. And I'm going to see y'all on the next video. Ochite.